River City Ransom is the third game in the Kunio-Kun series. This series, in case you didn't know, set the golden standard for beat-em-up games, starting with Renegade for the Nintendo Entertainment System back in 1986. American audiences, though, were only likely to know a handful of titles in the series. During the NES era, we got Super Dodgeball, Nintendo World Cup, River City Ransom, and Crash and the Boys Street Challenge. And until only recently, there were none others localized to the United States. But the series carried on. As of now, there are over 50 different releases in the series. Curious to know about what we missed? We'll be discussing the history of the Kunio-Kun series and taking an in-depth look at the localization of River City Ransom as we take today's trip down memory card lane. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope these words find you well. Hello and welcome to the 21st episode of our Video Game Nostalgia podcast, A Trip Down Memory Card Lane. Each week we select one game from the current week in gaming history, we talk about it, and then we use it to have important conversations about gaming. This is going to be a little bit of a history lesson this week, and we're going to be focusing on translations from Japanese to Western audiences, which I find really fascinating. In case you don't know, I'm David Caston, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, who has been throwing up change as a party trick for as long as I've known him. It's true, he barfs all the time. He's my brother and my co-host, Rob Caston. Rob, how is that party trick treating you these days?
I feel like there's a lot of iron in my body.
Change isn't worth much anymore. That's probably not very healthy for you, and it's just not cost effective anymore.
Well, someday the coin market will return.
I don't know. It's been on a decline for a while. It might have been different back in the 90s, but nowadays inflation's a bitch. That's just all I'll say. Inflation's a bitch.
True that.
True enough. How you doing today?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We haven't really it's your birthday week. You just had a birthday pass. That's probably the only time we talked this week. We haven't really hung out at all lately.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
We played some Siege, which you love, and you know I don't.
Yeah, you were pretty pissed off pretty quick.
I wasn't. I don't know if I was pissed off per se, but it's just not fun to me. And I'm not against first-person shooters because I think I'd have a lot of fun to go in one to just jump into, I think, a more traditional one because I don't think that's a very traditional one. But you know what's really fascinating? I can see the correlation now because Siege was super popular with everyone for a while. And I think that it kind of gave way to the battle royales. And I see a lot of similarities in what I like to call strategy, because I definitely think they're more strategic first person shooters. Whereas I like to call them Rambo style, the Halos and the Battlefields of the world where I just get to run around and shoot shit and not care about the consequences of dying. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, Siege is 100% a strategy game. I mean, you can waffle and have a good old time, but you're still gonna have some strategy in there. You gotta at least hear out your enemies and not just give away your position, because whoever got the drop got the shot.
I just want a good old fashioned deathmatch mode. I just want to run through and kill things and then respawn and kill things again and respawn and kill things again. This whole one and out stuff.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, today we're talking River City Ransom. Did you have a chance to play this one recently?
Yes, I did. It was on the Switch Marketplace, as you had told me. So I gave the game a good old college try.
Did you get to finish it?
I admittedly did not finish it, although I do know how it finishes because I was getting some guides to try and help me get through it. But yeah, I got a little frustrated and had to step away and just haven't quite got there. Pretty close though.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I guess. Well, we'll get into that. First though, let's hop into our time machine. We're gonna set the dials back for January of 1990. You know, we've been here recently, Rob. Earlier in the month on January 3rd, the United States invaded Panama. Do you remember what that invasion was called?
Was it the Panama invasion? The
It,
invasion of Panama.
it was the invasion of Panama, but it had an operational code name that we've talked about. Do you remember what it was?
Doogie Howser, MD.
No,
No,
Operation Just Cause.
that's what I said.
That's exactly what you said. I gave you a history lesson on the invasion of Panama, and here we are in the same month again, and I am a piss poor teacher, it seems.
Or I'm a
Well,
piss poor student.
yeah, I'm gonna go with piss poor teacher. That's all right. So here we are, January of 1990. We're invading Panama. The world doesn't know it yet, but the Cold War is winding down. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is closed to the public due to safety concerns. You know that they thought it was gonna. Well, actually, there's more to the story, but it was supposed to have fallen by now. The Leaning Tower. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Had they not underwent this huge engineering feat, which is really cool, by the way, what they did, it would be collapsed by now.
Oh, so you mean not original built? You mean like the renovations they've done with the counterbalancing?
That's why it hasn't collapsed yet. Yes.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
had
Yeah,
they
that I know about.
had they not done that, it was it would have been collapsed by now. But at the time, this is pre that renovation. They had to close it because they thought, timber. The Simpsons is in its first season. It's still going. That's pretty amazing, if you ask me.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, right. If The Simpsons wasn't your thing, there's a lot of iconic TV shows on TV, including Who's the Boss, The Wonder Years, Roseanne, Doogie Howser, MD, or our sister's favorite, Full House. Full House was on all the time in our house. And the number
Yeah.
one song on the Billboard Top 100 is Phil Collins' Another Day in Paradise. So here we are, smack dab in the beginning of the 90s.
I thought it was
And
Cheeseburger in Paradise.
it was not Cheeseburger in Paradise. Nope, we did not get that. Actually, we already had that by then, but that was not the number one song on the top 100 at the time. It was Phil Collins.
Hmm.
It was Phil
Well,
Collins, and then it was I don't know. Phil Collins was only the first half of January, and I don't remember what the second half of January was
I'll
for
tell you
that
what.
year.
Any day with a cheeseburger is a day in paradise. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Good. All right, so January of 1990, we got River City Ransom, and yeah, we got River City Ransom. Aside from playing it, Rob, do you know anything about this game, its series, anything about it whatsoever?
I didn't know that it was more than a game.
Didn't know it was more than a game. Well, like I alluded to, we're gonna have a little history lesson today because not only is it a game, it is a game in a series that has over 50 titles at this point, and it's actually still going to this day. Well, fun fact.
Huh?
Yeah, right? There's so many titles and names and video game stuff that we know as Western audiences, but there's a lot of Japanese series, and I wouldn't say a lot, but there's some Japanese series out there too, and this is one of them. This is River City Ransom is one game in a series that between all the games and remakes and everything else they've made in it, there are, if I'm not mistaken, I have the number much later in our notes right now, and I'm not going to flip to it. I believe there's 56 titles total in this series, and we know of. Is this really the only game in the series you know of?
Yeah.
Because there are 4 NES titles, and then there are 2 recent titles brought to America because we got River City Ransom Underground in 2017 and we got River City Girls in 2019. I
I've never
believe.
heard of either of those.
I know again I got it all in my notes, but I'm just kind of going off the top of my head right now riffing. So cool. Well, then you've got a lot to learn about the series, and hopefully our listeners have a lot to learn as well. And so that's what we're gonna spend our time on today. I know I talk about it every week. And I always like to be like, oh, I like to focus on the, what people thought of it and so on and so forth in the feelies. But the truth of the matter is anything from the NES era or before is super hard to find reviews on. Sometimes I get stupid lucky. Last week when we did Diablo, that was a little later, but that was early. I got stupid lucky. No, last week we did Devil May Cry. Diablo was 2 weeks ago. Anyway, sometimes I get lucky and sometimes I don't. And River City Ransom is pretty hard to find people's opinions on. But luckily, we have a long storied history that many of you don't know about. And since I love history, we're going to talk about it. So, the first game in the series, and look, this is all Japanese. I'm going to butcher the hell out of it. I'm going to tell you that right now. I am not good at Japanese, not in any way, shape, or form, but we're going to give it a shot anyways. Know that I mean well, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone, but here we go. You ready for it? You
Sure
can make
thing.
you can make fun of me as we go along. How about that for your part today? So,
Sure.
yay, make fun of Dave, favorite thing. So the first one, back in 1986, we have Neketsu Koha Kunio-Kun, which translates roughly to hot-blooded tough guy Kunio. And in this game, the player takes control of Kunio as he fights against the various gangs who bully his friend. This would be the first game in the Kunio series. It was localized to international audiences as the game Renegade, both in the arcades and the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Okay.
On the Japanese side, it looked like I don't know. I guess to American audiences, it would almost look like a karate fighter. You know, the it was a side-scrolling beat 'em up. Took place on three levels of two screens back and forth, and the main character was wearing traditional school uniform. I don't know its name. I'm bad with that stuff. Which I would assume as a ignorant American audience, we'd probably call it like a karate suit or something like that. You know what I mean? Just that long white, you know. All right.
Kimono.
So no, it's not a kimono. It starts with a K. I can't think of it. But anyway, so yes, so he fights, and in the American version, the game's called Renegade. It looks nothing like this. In the Every time this company, which is Technos Japan, brought a game over to America, they Americanized it. In Renegade, they made the game resemble the 1979. I don't think that's the year, but I might be wrong or right. The Warriors. Do you know the movie The Warriors?
Doesn't sound familiar.
You don't know the Warriors?
I don't think so.
Warriors, come out and play. You don't know that one at all?
No comprende.
Oh my god, it's such a good movie about like, oh, you got to watch The Warriors. It's kind of I'm not surprised that you haven't seen it, but it's a good movie. So, Warriors. Anyways, so they made this game resemble The Warriors, so it really doesn't resemble the its origin. Admittedly, I can understand why a lot of American audiences didn't put the two together. But Renegade is the first game in the Kunio-Kun series, and it was a standard for beat 'em ups. Beat 'em up. One of the things that was unique about Renegade as a beat 'em up is that most of the beat 'em ups until this point, all the beat 'em ups until this point actually, were just side scrolling, in that you moved from one side to the next, like the original Mario Brothers side scrolling. But what Renegade did is it let the character move up and down on the map, and it gave the illusion. It wasn't really true 3D, but when you can move up and down, it gives you the illusion that you're in 3D. Do you remember playing the original Teenage Mutant Turtles arcade game at all?
I don't believe I ever played the arcade game, just the Super Nintendo's or whichever one was Turtles in Time.
Okay, so Turtles in Time was the fourth one in the series, if my memory is serving me correctly. But that's kind of the concept, right? If it was side scrolling, you'd always be at the bottom of the screen moving from left to right, but you can also move up and down. And like in Turtles in Time, you can move up and down. So you're either closer to the background or further from the background. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
all
so
about perspective.
Renegade was the first game to do that. Okay, and so it kind of gave it kind of made a standard. I mean, it became a standard, and that was way back in 1986. All right. So in 1987, we got Neketsu Koko Dodgeball Boo, and that would be the second game in the Kunio series. And in this game, Kunio leads his school's dodgeball team, which is Neketsu High School, against his rival school, which after they defeat their rival school, they then proceed to compete against international teams. So the second, this one, Neketsu Koko Dodgeball Boo, was localized to the US as Super Dodgeball. Did you ever play Super Dodgeball?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Man, we had Super. I mean, I had Super Dodgeball. I don't know if you've ever stumbled across our NES collection. I don't even know where it is these days.
I thought you had it, honestly.
I know everyone thinks I have it. I don't think I have it, but that's neither here nor there. So,
Okay.
um, I've repurchased a lot of NES stuff, but I don't remember ever the older stuff coming to me. So it might still be somewhere. You know how our house is. Things get lost in holes. So.
That they do. It could be in my closet for all I know.
Yeah, so Super Dodgeball, we got Super Dodgeball. Super Dodgeball was a lot of fun. Super Dodgeball, when it was localized, was United States versus it wasn't that they every time the Kunio-Kun series brings something over to United States, they get rid of this whole high school rivalry thing. They just turn it into something else. So in Super Dodgeball, you played as United States or other teams against other international teams, and it was a fun little tournament. I remember you could spike the ball. There were like super spike power ups. I'm even thinking of super spike ball or whichever. But anyways, it was a lot of fun. I remember playing that one. So that was number two. So the third game in the Kunio series came a few years later in 1989. This would be the first that was produced specifically for consoles. And this one would actually be, it's called Downtown Neketsu Story, and that is what would be localized to the United States as River City Ransom. It's also known in Europe as Street Gangs. You know, these games got localized and renamed and reskinned all over the place. I have a lot more to say, obviously, because this episode's on River City Ransom, but we're gonna come back to it. I wanna keep going. I wanna keep going. In 1990, we got Neketsu High School Dodgeball Club Soccer Story, which is the fourth game in the Kunio series, and it features the dodgeball team helping the school soccer team compete against, wouldn't you guess, the rival high schools. When it was localized in the United States, it came over here as Nintendo World Cup, and all the high schools became nations. We had World Cup 2, which was a lot of fun. I remember if you hit the ball certain ways, it would do weird things, like go super fast, or I think there was one where like you'd hit it like a bicycle kick, and it did like a horseshoe across the map and then zoomed really fast into the net. I might be mixing up the dodgeball and the World Cup, but it was this thing where you had all these stupid power up moves that was a lot of fun. As I said before, there's 56 games in this series. I don't intend on doing all of them, but I do want to point out. I do want to point out some of them. The same year we had Soccer Story, we had Downtown Nuketsu March Super Awesome Field Day, in which they compete in a series of 4 athletic events. In 1990, we also had the first Game Boy game, the first portable game in this series, which was Neketsu Koha Kunio-Kun Bangai Ranto Hen, which translates roughly to Neketsu Tough Guy Kunio The Further Brawls. You ready to make fun of my pronunciations yet?
I mean, I'm not a Japanese speaker. I know very few things in Japanese, so I'm not
The
one to judge the other
right.
person saying Kunio.
Yeah, well, Kunio's pretty easy. I know I got that one right, and I know I got Neketsu. I got all that right. It's all the other stuff that I'm trying to that's probably wrong. So the reason why I brought up this one, because there's ones I've skipped, is because this one was released internationally as a Game Boy version of Double Dragon 2, but it's not the same as the actual arcade Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, which was later ported to other consoles. And if you're curious why this was released as Double Dragon 2, give me a little bit of time. I will get there to talk about the relationship to Double Dragon. Okay? Okay. In 91, we got one of my favorites, Downtown Special, Kunio-Kun's historical period drama, in which, you guessed it, Kunio characters act out a period play. That one sounds interesting, huh, Rob?
Oh yes, that Sounds great.
In 92, we got Go-Go Neketsu Hockey Club, Slip and Slide Madness, which I don't know. What is that? What do you think that one's about?
Is it how he beats up people by sliding down a slip and slide in the Olympics?
That would actually be a lot of fun. But no, it's hockey.
Oh.
In 92, you also got Surprise! Neketsu New Records, The Distant Gold Medal, which was released in the United States as Crash and the Boy Street Challenge. I never played Crash and the Boy Street Challenge. I have zero familiarity with it.
Sounds like a boy band.
I know, Crash and the Boys. Actually, it is kind of a boy band. Crash and the Boys isn't that the name of the band from Scott Pilgrim?
Oh, wait, is it?
Isn't one of the bands in Scott Pilgrim Crash and the Boys? I think it's the one. I think it's the one in the Battle of the Bands scene is one of the bands called Crash and the Boys. So I don't know.
Later known as the Boys
Later, oh,
and
and then
Crash.
yes, and then they. Well, no,
Huh.
I
No,
think it's.
I'm literally reading the wiki.
Oh,
It goes from Crash and the Boys to the Boys and
because Crash
Crash.
gets the boys in Crash. Got it. So I wasn't wrong, was I?
And it is a reference to the NES game Crash and the Boys Street Challenge.
Nice, very
Good
nice.
call, Dave. Good call
Thanks.
out.
I guess my memory of Scott Pilgrim isn't that bad. You know, I actually own that whole graphic book series.
I'm not surprised.
I know, I'm a dork. I don't own many graphic novels, though. That's probably the only one not probably. It actually is the only series I own graphic novel wise.
I don't own any myself, but I plan on it someday when I have more space for more books.
So in 92 we had the SNES and we got Shodai Neketsu Koha Kunio-Kun, which was the first Super Famicom, which was the SNES in Japan, the first Super Famicom Kunio-Kun game, which was set during his second year of high school and it never came to the US. We had in 94 Shin Neketsu Koha Kunio Tachi no Banka, which translates roughly to the new Neketsu tough guy, the elegy of Kunio and Company, which was chronologically set between Renegade and River City Ransom. So they got some story fill in and we didn't. And I'm serious, like there are a ton of games in this series. You know, I could go on for a while, but I think this is, starting to, my eyes are starting, ears are starting to bleed, so you don't want to hear me anymore. But there's basketball, and I think there's a ping pong game, and there's a numerous dodgeball variations put out. And I mean, there's literally a game, there's a game for every sport imaginable in the Kunio-Kun series. Which brings us to 90, not 97, 2017. You know, we got, like I said, we got River City Ransom Underground, which is available on PC. And then in 2019, we got River City Girls, which is also available on Steam. So the series is still going. And like I had noted, between the original games, between the anniversary releases, and all the remakes, there were I counted 56 games in this series, and I think only six of them have been released in some way, shape, or form to Western audiences. Honestly, there's more now. In 2019, you know what? I'll get back to that one second. So, Double Dragon, right? I talked about how Double Dragon, the first Game Boy one would become Double Dragon 2. Kunio-Kun was a Technos Japan game. The developer, one of the guys involved in the series, would go on to work on Double Dragon. So Renegade, or the original Kunio-Kun game, was a success, but they thought that they could do better, both technologically with the technology they had. And so they split up and they went to go work on a technological and spiritual successor to Renegade, and that game became Double Dragon. Rob, do you know the Double Dragon series?
I do not believe I do.
But you know of the Double Dragon series?
It sounds familiar, yes, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Huh. It's really fascinating to me sometimes, like titles. And look, I'm not a Double Dragon like nut. I couldn't tell you much about the series, but I'm familiar with it. And it's really weird to me to think that you're not, but they really don't have Double Dragons anymore. So, Double Dragon was I don't think it was one of the, I think it was the first co op beat 'em up. And the first Double Dragon I think came in just before River City Ransom, which is a co-op beat 'em up. And yeah, anyway, the spiritual successor to Renegade, and therefore I would say one of the offshoots of the Kunio-Kun series is actually Double Dragon. There's homages to Double Dragon all over the place through the series, but yeah. What I was gonna say before is on the Switch in 2019, they released a Double Dragon and Kunio-Kun Brawler anthology. I don't know if it's on the eShop or what. I know it's a Switch title. And among all the Double Dragons, it has a non-localized version of River City Ransom, the Downtown Neketsu story. It has it has the version that's their story and not our story. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
yeah.
But that's what I want to talk about today. That's exactly what I want to talk about. So probably the most fascinating thing in all of this is the localization, because they made it different, and I want to talk about how they made it different and why they made it different, and just kind of take a look at that process as we go through it. But first, let's talk about River City Ransom. Okay, so River City Ransom. Well, Rob, you've played it recently. What's the basic premise of River City Ransom?
The premise is that your girlfriend was kidnapped
Hmm?
and you have to go and save her.
Whose girlfriend though?
Oh god, I can't remember the names right now.
Isn't that can Okay, so there's Alex and there's Ryan.
Ryan, Alex and Ryan, and then Slick is the
Yeah,
protagonist.
correct. Bad guys slick. So do you remember the girlfriend's name?
Nope.
Cindy.
Oh, okay, Cindy.
Do you remember whose girlfriend she is?
Andy.
No, she's
Oh, it's
Ryan's
Ryan.
girlfriend.
Yeah, that's right, it's
She's
Ryan.
not even, if you play one player, you play as Alex, and it's not even your girlfriend that you're trying to save. You're trying to save your friend Ryan's girlfriend from Slick, which I found kind of weird. Like, wouldn't you want to make it your girlfriend, or at least the main protagonist's girlfriend? But no, it's the non-main protagonist's girlfriend. And I mean, I guess when you play two player, they both are in there, but it's not like the game is around Ryan. Ryan's not Kunio. Ryan's Ricky. It's Kunio and Ricky in the Japanese version, and it's Ricky's girlfriend. Not Ryan's girlfriend. I don't know. I just find that bizarre. So.
Maybe his buddy's weak, man.
Maybe. So yeah, so you are high school students and you're trying to rescue Ryan's girlfriend from a villain called Slick. And along the way, they have to battle various gangs of students, and their gang leaders act as bosses. So that's the premise behind the game. Pretty
Like
simple.
they were students?
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. So,
Oh my goodness.
that's what we're going to talk about. So, River City Ransom is a beat 'em up game with role playing elements, right? You can move freely across the screen, you can punch, you can kick, you can jump, you can pick up weapons such as chains, brass knuckles, the trash cans, or the wheels. Did you ever jump on the wheel while it was rolling?
I did not know.
You can ride the wheel like it's a freaking, like you run along with it. You didn't even know you could do that, did you?
I saw it, but I didn't do it
Oh
myself.
man. Your character's effectiveness is determined by they have attributes in punching or kicking, and those attributes are buffed by various books, items, or foods that you buy throughout areas in the games. You can also buy new techniques like a fast punch or a fast kick, a spiral jump. This was before they had saved games. There's no save system, at least in the United States version. There was a save system called the Turbo File on the Japanese version, but in the United States we only had password systems to save our games. It wasn't very long. Average playtime is 2.5 hours, and it's also open world. You can literally walk from the very first map you start on to the very last map second to last map you start on, and back and however you please. So it's technically an open world game, and it's really fascinating. We talk a lot about open world, but we never really ever got to this in the conversation, did we?
No, we did not.
But it's open world. I mean, it's open world. You can go anywhere. You can go anywhere. How is it not open world?
No, it is. It is.
Weird, huh?
Yeah. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right.
Okay. In the Japanese version, and now I want to get into localization, which is what I want to talk about today. So, in the Japanese version, the story is that Kunio and Ricky are saving his girlfriend, and it's not Cindy in the Japanese version. It's Mami or Mami. I like Mami because it reminds me of being facetious in Spanish. Ay, Mami, trying to save him from the bad guy. The bad guy is Yamada in. Is it Yamada?
Yamamoto.
Yeah, Slick becomes Yamada. So, anyways, in this one, yeah. But anyway, so they're rival high schools, right? Kunio, is in one school, and all the gangs are actually high school, like rival high schools. Like there's, the generic dudes. The gang that's a generic dudes becomes Senradai High School, and you're actually going against a ton of rival high schools on your way to get to Yamada or Slick which it is in the American version. So yeah, in the United States version, they're not. I say gangs of students, but they're really just gangs. Period. And I guess I put students in there because of the influence. But in Japanese version, you're actually up against all these rival high schools who are blocking the way from you to rescue your girl. And each there are no gangs. The gangs don't exist. They have names of local high schools. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of changes. So as we talked about it, the main characters, Kunio becomes Alex. And it's really fascinating. I want to do some etymology, so I kind of went and I looked up what all these names mean to see if there was any rhyme or reason to to the names they picked. So Kunio means countryman, whereas Alex means man's defender. I guess I can see some correlation there. I think that probably Alex is a much more American name, and that's why they picked it. What do you think?
Maybe, yeah.
Ricky means power or strength, while Ryan means little king. I don't, not much correlation there. Again, probably Ryan's a traditional American name, huh?
A little bit, yeah.
Sabe, long leader superior becomes Roxy, bright or dawn. And then, like we mentioned, Mami means true beauty, where Cindy means you come from the mountain of Kinthos. Apparently it's Greek. Who would have guessed?
Not
The
me.
bosses get weird names. Sawaguchi becomes Moose. Kamijo and Yamamoto become Benny and Clyde. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Kamijo means above or superior to God, where Benny is a Hebrew name meaning sun. Yamamoto means base of the mountain. I think this one's fascinating, actually. So Yamamoto becomes Clyde. Yamamoto, like I said, means base of the mountain. Clyde is also a geographical name. It refers to someone who lives on the bank of the Clyde River, which flows through Glasgow. Glasgow. Isn't it Glasgow? That's such an American way of saying it. I'm such a tourist right now. But I think it's fascinating that those are both geographical names. Other bosses, Rocco, which means rest in American, is Nishimura, which means West Village in the Japanese version. Kinoshita means one who lives under a tree, and they become Blade, which means, a blade, a knife or a sword.
Profound.
Yes. Mochizuki means full moon, and they become Turk, who refers to either Turkish people, which is also said to mean strength. Tyra means flying, and they become Mojo, which is a South African word that means fertility, rain, music, dance, and lucky charm. I don't know how you get those two. There's a Kobayashi, which means small forest, and they become Thor, which of course is the old Norse word for thunder god. And of course, the main boss, like I said, is Yamada, which he becomes Slick. Slick is believed to be an Americanized version of the German Schlick, which is an inhabitant of mossy area. I don't know how true that is. You know German more than I do.
Yeah, but I'm not familiar with that word.
And like I said, the gangs, the American version, we became gangs, shows how much they thought about us as Americans. But they were actually high schools in the Japanese version. So the generic dudes was Senradai High School. The mob was Hakutaka High School. Madagawa High School became the Squids. Raiho Academy became the Plague. They had all these really cool high schools that were competing against one another, and then they turned them into lame ass lame ass gang names like the Mob, the Squids, and the Plague. There's also what like the Cowboys, the Frat Boys, the Jocks. What else? Can you remember any of the others?
Now you named the ones that I would remember.
Oh, the Internationals. That was one of them. I don't know.
I don't remember that one.
One thing we did get when it was brought over to the Western side was unique names in our stores. So in the Japanese version, the coffee shops are all called coffee shop. The fast food joints are all called fast food. Drugstores are all drugstores. But when they brought it over to America, our Western audiences rather, because Europe got it too, we all got generic. We got less generic names. Like the coffee shop became the Rise and Shine Cafe in one place, and a different name in another. The rice shop became Chez Wallace. Fast food joint became Merv's Burger Joint. The drugstore, for instance, became Jones Pharmacy. Funny enough, the fish shop became the butcher shop because Lord knows that Americans don't eat fish.
I thought there was a sushi shop in there.
There is a sushi shop, and it's actually the sushi shop in both versions. They didn't change that at
So why
all.
do you need a fish shop and a sushi shop? You get your fish at your sushi shop, and your other meats at your butcher shop.
But there was no butcher shop in the Japanese version. It was the fish shop.
I know. Never mind. Never mind.
No, I'm following you. I'm just saying. They don't care about the rest of the meat. They just want their fish. And maybe sometimes they don't want it rolled up with cucumber or rice or seaweed.
Nah, they probably do.
Yeah, maybe they do. The bathhouse becomes Pop's Health Club. That one cracks me up because when you use it in the game, it's clearly still a bathhouse, but they don't call it a bathhouse for Americans. They called it Pop's Health Club, which makes it kind of creepy, to be honest with you.
Why not call it like a sauna?
Yeah, exactly. Why not call it a sauna? There were other things that they localized too. In the Japanese release, the main characters wore those traditional Japanese school uniforms we talked about. So like Alex was wearing all white and Ricky was wearing all blue. But in the United States releases, they're wearing what, Rob? You
Wait,
played it.
who
What are
are
they
we talking
wearing?
about?
And the main characters. What's everyone actually? What's everyone wearing in this game?
Jeans and a t-shirt.
Absolutely, jeans and a t-shirt. They didn't wear that in the Japanese version. They all wore traditional school outfits, which were one color. So imagine white shirt, white pants, or blue shirt, blue pants, or pink shirt, pink like they were one color in the Japanese version because they were meant to reflect
That
Japanese
makes
school
more
uniforms.
sense.
But when they brought it over to the United States, they're like, those uncultured swine. We're gonna make them all wear jeans and a t-shirt. So jeans and a t-shirt.
Jeans and a t-shirt.
Even the moves got different names. The mock punch became stone hands. The mock kick became dragon feet. The mock strike became grand slam. Screw became arrow circus. Stomp became final steps. And the human torpedo became javelin man. I
Fatal
much
steps.
prefer fatal steps. I much prefer human torpedo to javelin man. They shouldn't have changed that, should they?
I was going to say every one of those names made so much sense in the Japanese because stone hands, I punch faster. Dragon feet, okay, that makes a little sense, whatever. But grand slam, like mock strike, just makes more sense. Screw, arrow circus sounds like I'm just doing aerobatics and the no.
Yeah, that's an absolutely useless us. In fact, the last three I don't even think I buy on most of my playthroughs. I'll buy the Stone Hands, Dragon Feet, and Grand Slam, but I don't ever bother with Arrow Circus, Fatal Steps, or Javelin Man. They're not. Actually, the only one to go for is Grand Slam. You go for Grand Slam, and then you can beat the shit out of anyone with weapons, and then that's how you get through the entire game. So
Oh, that would have been nice to know.
yeah. Well, let's get to that point, shall we? So both of us played the game recently. It was a replay for. Was it the first time for you, or was it a replay for you?
First time for me.
First time for you and a replay for me because I had it way back here in the '90s. So I had a chance to play it. I tore through it. It's not a very long game. I think I did it in less than 2 hours. Honestly, I didn't really dick around in it very much. You played it for what, a few hours?
4. Well, 3 to 4.
Okay.
I died a lot.
Okay. All right. Well, so what do you think? Like, what are your perceptions of the game?
Well, at first I was really confused how the health worked in the game because I would lose all my bars but still be able to take hits. So like I never really knew what was going on with that
Okay.
or how to get it back. Like, I went to food stores and kept buying food, and it would go up, like, 2 and then randomly be at, like, full again. I didn't know what anything did, and randomly I would get attributes added to me, like willpower and things, and I didn't know what they did. So I was just really confused about everything, and every time I went to go fight, I just kinda sucked. I always get hit with random off-screen, chains
Oh
or rocks
yeah,
or
God,
something.
I know that game's really stupid for that. Did you figure it out though?
No, not really. I didn't wanna look up a guide, but it's very confusing if you don't know it.
Oh man, yeah, it really is. In all honesty, I have the get stone hands beat the crap out of everyone and get dragon feet beat the crap out of everyone. Save up enough money for Grand Slam, and then once you have like a chain in your hands, there's really no. You can button mash enough that there's really no guy after that they can beat you once you have Grand Slam. I think all the attributes go up to the 60s. Like you can get your punch and kick and all that up to 63 if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think mine ever break like 25 when I play the game because once you get Grand Slam, it's like game over for everyone. And then it's just a matter of I mean literally you can just sit there with like a chain or something and spam and beat the crap out of everyone. That's why you can potentially get through it kind of quick.
Well, damn.
Well, I mean, you're probably not very far from the end if you put that much time in it. You should go buy Grand Slam and beat the crap out of everyone because it's really not. If you've gotten that far, you can probably just do it and get to the end and be done with it. So
Well, if I didn't lose half of my money every time, that might be a little easier said than done.
go beat Betty and Clyde in front of the bathhouse. I think that's the best spot to grind for money if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's where I'm at grinding actually.
Yeah, yeah. So not a fan, huh? Just not your thing.
I wouldn't say that. I just feel it's a little complicated at first, not knowing what I'm doing.
Which is funny that you're saying that, considering how complex games have become over the next 30 years. Has it really been that long? It has been that long. Yikes. Um, how complex games are. Imagine this back in 1990 when we didn't have this. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think about punches or attributes. That's probably why I play the way I do, where you just get the technique and beat everyone. I wouldn't even been able, I couldn't even have told you back then what punch or kick or willpower or max power or anything of that was. I literally couldn't have told you. It wasn't until I played it again as an adult that you slowly deduce what these things are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wish. I mean, I feel like at least in the instruction manual, it might tell you what all the different items did, or I guess maybe it's trial and error. In which case, probably would have taken me a lot longer.
Yeah, I guess. But get your good technique and move on from there. So.
Right, you are.
We should have tried it together. We probably could have whipped through it on a two-player. This is one of the first co-op, one of the first and one of the few, for that matter, co-op games on the NES, which is in part what made it popular and why a lot of honestly, it's a well-known NES game as far as I know or consider. And one of the reasons was because it was a co-op game, which is really kind of fascinating. So, yeah. But did you know of it before we chose to do it?
Yes, I've known about this title for a while. I had just never
Okay.
gotten around to playing it.
But you'd never gotten around to playing it. Gotcha. So, I mean, it was a fun little jaunt down nostalgia lane for me. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it was neat to pick it up again, and I usually play a little bit on my Switch when I'm laying in bed while I'm winding down for the day, and it was 2 nights of winding down on my Switch, maybe 3 nights. I don't know, depending on how long it was. That's really all it was for me, and then I was done, and then I moved on. And then I moved on to Link Ventures of Zelda. That's where we moved on to. Well, that'll about do it for the game. Let's take a look at how well do you think this was received back then, Rob?
Being that it was one of the first multiplayer games, and it was just kind of run around, beat 'em up, didn't have a whole lot of like puzzle things, and which would make it a little more friendly for people who don't like to spend a lot of time on games. I'm gonna imagine pretty well.
Yeah, I think it was. All the reviews I could find put it in 80 mid 80s to low 90s, so B to an A, low A. I did find a few snippets of reviews though. You wanna take this first one from Enforce in 1992. So I mean a few years after it came out, but Enforce magazine here. What did they have to say about River City Ransom?
They had to say that there was more to offer than your average beat 'em up, and definitely one to keep an eye out for.
Kind of fascinating because now I don't think that's the case, but back then there weren't really a lot of options. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely. I mean, there was what,
Uh,
this and one other at the time?
yeah. Right when it first came out, and well, this was '89 because the Japanese version came out before the American version. Nintendo Power had something to say about it. What was Nintendo Power's little blip on it?
They had to say, "The generic boy is giving you trouble? Can't seem to get across the Clark Street Bridge alone? Well, my friend, Technos has given you the solution. Just holler for your best NES buddy, and the two of you can take him on at the same time. It's the roughest, toughest, two-fisted, put up your Duke street brawl ever. River City Ransom."
There you go. So their push was the two-player mode, which I think was the push for a lot of people. But I don't know if I'm sure I played this two-player with people, but I don't really know. I did find a few user reviews on Moby Games. Not very many, only a small handful, but I found some too from back, way back in the 90s to see what people think. This first one is from Jimmy Sherrill on Moby Games. And in his summary, he said, take Street Fighter, add Final Fantasy, throw in some Super Mario Brothers, and what do you get? River City Ransom. Rob, do you think that's accurate?
I would imagine, yes, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, no, it's absolutely accurate.
Well, what did he have to say specifically in his review, Rob?
Said hands down, River City Ransom was one of the best games ever for the NES and way ahead of its time. You can pick up a large variety of objects and learn a huge arsenal of moves. Plus, you can get money from the beaten up gang members to buy food and other items, which replenish your health, willpower, or other stats. Plus, it has a neat tilted view that gives the illusion of depth, like in Commander Keen, Goodbye Galaxy, which came out about 2 years later. Plus, the boss fights are very nice and challenging.
So there you go. It's kind of funny to think about it being way ahead of its time, right? Because this is a beat 'em up. You could pick up options. It was a beat 'em up in which you could learn a huge arsenal of moves. That's something pretty standard nowadays for, we just did Devil May Cry. And as you progress through the game, you learn new moves, And so nowadays, like hack and slash and beat up games, that's a pretty common game mechanic. But back in 1990, that wasn't the case. I don't know if I can think of other games that allowed you to to purchase new moves like this one. I'm slow because I'm trying to think as I'm talking and I can't think of others. Can you think of any others that you know of? Nah, that really wasn't your era, was it?
No, it was not my era.
Wasn't your era. So Adzukin on Moby Games summarized his review of River City Ransom, in which he said, "River City, where the smiles are free." Rob, what did Adzukin have to say?
As you can had to say, in summary, River City Ransom is a short but sweet, simple yet deep co-op beat 'em up that you and a friend can have a blast playing through in an afternoon. The game is simple to pick up and learn, even for novice players and non-gamers. It is one of the best NES games ever released and should be a part of every retro gamer's collection. River City Ransom is an amazing game.
Okay, all right. My Zur on mobile Moby Games here says street fighting never got better than this. I think that's a very risky gamble to take. I think Street Fighter got way better than this. But what did my Zur have to say, Rob?
Mizer had to say that the mix of RPG and action elements in this title were superb. You beat up gang members and get cash. You use the cash to buy drugs, items, food, anything to improve your character stats so he can beat up more guys and get more cash. The cycle is pulled off well enough to not be repetitive by the time the end of the game came around.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment, don't you?
It's a little grindy.
It is. I think the game's. I I think the game's all grind, to be honest with you, but it's so short that it really doesn't matter. I
If
think the
you're
game.
if you play well enough, if you're awful like me, it gets a little frustrating.
Well, I don't. I think what's more don't get me wrong, River City Ransom's a good game, but it's short. There's not much substance to it. I think what's most fascinating about it is that we don't know that there's 55 other games in the Kunio-Kun series.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me.
But yeah, that's River City Ransom in a nutshell. Short, sweet, succinct, just like the game. Before we move on, is there anything else that you'd like to ask or add about River City Ransom, Rob?
Well, I did have a chance to see the end of the game because I did watch a playthrough trying to get an idea of what I was doing and see where I was going wrong, and most of it was just that I'm really bad at the game.
Okay.
And at the end, you find the boss and you find out who it is and everything, but the lines at the end, I don't. Do you recall what the lines are right at the end that are said?
Off the top of my head, I do not. I do know though that it's kind of open ended, and we never got a River City Ransom 2 to play off of it. Is that
Uh,
fair?
what I recall, well, hold on, I'm just gonna actually look this up while we're doing this
Sure, let's look this up.
because I just remember that while I'm looking for this, that it was just so random that I literally was just like, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah.
I'll be back and I won't forget this. Then it's followed with thanks to Alex and Ryan, that was the end of Evil Simon. The gangs returned to class and became honor students. What?
See?
Cindy was
That
rescued in time to finish her shopping. So, knowing the history now, it makes sense that the gangs were students.
yeah.
But when it said the gangs went back to become honor students, I had to laugh because I
Yeah,
where do
because
you
you
hear
have
of reformed gang members going to back to honor students?
yeah, you
Like
have you have
it
no
was
idea.
so
You're just like,
random.
yeah, we're roving street gangs, and now we're honor students all of a sudden. Go us.
So it definitely does help knowing a little bit of the history of this and understanding the original
I
adaptations
also
too.
think it's fucking funny. So Cindy's there, and Alex and Ricky go through all this trouble to save her. I mean, excuse me, they literally have to go through droves. They literally have to go through droves of people to rescue her. And so they defeat him, they rescue her, and then it's like, okay, time to go shopping, guys. It's like, yo, bitch, do you not understand the gravity of what just happened? Can I have a moment to breathe? Nope.
Yeah, no,
Time
that is pretty hilarious too.
time
Knowing
to go shopping. God damn it, Cindy. In River City Girls, Cindy and Roxy have to rescue Alex and Ricky, or Kunio and Ricky. It's the flip floppy part. The girls rescue the guys,
interesting.
and River City Ransom Underground starts with that scene, and I haven't played it yet. I'm pretty sure I own it. I think I bought it when it was on sale once, but it starts out with that scene and it plays off of the ending. It's kind of a sequel to it, basically, that we should play sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds like a plan.
yeah, yep. So, anyways, yeah, that's what I have on River City Ransom. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? That's a good point. I didn't think about that ending at all.
Nope, that was about the only thing. Other than that, it's just a lot of beat 'em up and a lot of barf and coins.
A lot of barfing coins. A lot of barfing coins. If you don't know what we're talking about, every time you defeat an enemy, they go barf and they drop money for you. And so you see them like a little speech bubble that pops up that says barf, and then you hear the coin sound and coins are on the ground. You pick up the money. So essentially, when you beat everyone, everyone throws up and they give you money. So barf.
Barf.
Gaming question of the week, Rob. You ready?
Sure.
Since we're talking about saving girlfriends, I thought that we could talk about our affinity for video game characters. And so my question is, have you ever had a crush on a video game character?
Off the top of my head, nothing comes to mind. I mean, Diva's pretty cool and all, but
Yeah,
um,
I honestly don't know if I have had any either. Truthfully, maybe had childhood crushes on the Final Fantasy VII girls, because you kind of get attached to them as you're playing, Aerith and Tifa.
I was thinking Tifa would probably, be a definite one, but like, it's like you can be like, ooh, like yeah, attractive person there, but like, I don't know, it's not like, I don't know. I
I
can't think of
mean,
that
I
deeper
mean, look,
attraction.
Rule 34 is a legit thing nowadays, and there is a ton of people that find ways to make video game characters attractive.
Oh, and absolutely, I believe that the characters can be made to be attractive, but in the sense of like the game itself, I've never felt like that deep interest. Like, yeah, it's cool to look at, but like window shopping, baby.
Yeah, window shopping indeed.
I don't know. Like definitely have had the thought like, damn, that's like a fan service character, and like, yeah, it's cool.
So no crushes. Neither one of us have any significant crushes. That's okay. That's a good thing. Nowadays, there's lots of characters that are attractive, but we're past the point where we would get attracted to whatchamacallit, right? Right.
Yeah, I will say there are some pretty sweet Boozette cosplays. Or Bowsette.
Yeah,
Bowsette is a character I could get behind, but no crush. Just
no
just smash.
crushes.
Just smash. No crush, just smash. Becky, let me smash. And for those listening, we would love to hear from you. If you've ever had a crush on a video game character, maybe you can tell that Dave and I are the weird ones because we've never had it. If you want to do that, or if you want to tell us you hate the sound of our voices or whatever, you should definitely let us know that. Come visit us on our website, www.memorycardlane.com.
What else can they find on our website?
At our website, you can also find show notes, calendars of our upcoming podcasts with the topics that we will be talking about, so you can put some little inputs in for us, biographies of Dave, and maybe sometime within 2021, a biography of myself, or you can find links to our Discord. Also, there, you can find links to our Patreon. And Dave, why don't you tell them a little more about that Patreon?
So, if you like what you're hearing week in and week out, you can support our podcast and our community by giving us $2 a month. On Patreon, we do weekly community polls. I also post these episodes once I'm done editing them, so you tend to get them about the night before, say about 12 hours early. But most importantly, you'll be supporting our podcast. The money pretty much just goes towards our podcast hosting space, our Discord server space, our podcast website. That's the third thing, website space. So that's all. Plain and simple. Support the content that you already listen and love by going to www.patreon.com/tripdownmemorycardlane, or just going to our website at www.memorycardlane.com and clicking at the top of the page on support, and that'll take you to a banner on our Patreon where you can give us $2 a month and support all of our efforts. Also on our website, you will find our social media links. I am on there. My Twitter account, a link to my Twitter account is on there, which is David_is_wrong. Rob, what are you doing on social media these days?
I may be found on twitch.tv/FATBOIRIPZ, streaming the occasional first person shooter, or maybe we're building some factories, or who knows, maybe we're racing around some tracks. You never know till you drop in.
Before I got on this episode, I was watching Let's Game It Out. Did you know he's streaming again?
I did not.
Yes, he's on twitch.tv/ I think just just Game It Out. I'll have to look it up. But if you're a fan of the YouTube series Let's Game It Out, the guy who plays strategy games amazingly wrong, he is doing Twitch streaming now. So go check him out.
Go check him out.
Before we call it a day on the ransoms of the River City, is there anything that you would like to say to our audience?
As always, I would like to just take a second to say thank you to each and every one of you who are listening. We'd still be here with or without you, but it makes it a lot more fun knowing that hopefully we get a few laughs out of you. We get some enjoyment out of your day. So let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you.
Alrighty, well that'll do it for today's episode. Beat 'em up, episode 21 of our video game nostalgia podcast, A Trip Down Memory Card Lane. Next week, we're going to be getting rude and crude as we head back to 1996 and we talk about video games' resident bad boy, Duke Nukem. Duke Nukem 3D is known for its risque humor, its pop culture references, its the interactivity of its environment, and just its over the top of Hollywood action hero mentality. but it's also very well known for being a controversial title. It's got a lot of crude humor. It's misogynistic. It's just Duke Nukem. What more can I say? But we're going to be looking at Duke Nukem 3D as well as likely other games in the Duke Nukem series, and kind of taking a look at all the good, the bad, the controversial, and the not so controversial. So next week's going to be a bit explicit, but we're going there anyways as we take another bubblegum chewing, ass kicking trip down memory card lane.
Da-da-da-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-ba-bow.